I'll land this major contract for us. There's no way George, with his night school diploma, can handle it. Leave it to me, a graduate from a prestigious university. Elite junior colleague Michael said this, snatching away the major project contract I had brought in. Watching this unfold, our boss Alex commented, "Sounds promising. Then I'm counting on you for the contract in Africa." "Yes, leave it to me." Africa. Michael found himself in a situation he couldn't back out of. At that moment, he couldn't possibly imagine what awaited him in Africa. "My name is George. I'm a company employee who works diligently every day, driven by a certain conviction. I've always struggled with studying, never managing to score well on midterms or final exams in elementary or middle school. Instead, I aim to be the most entertaining person in class, always playing the role of the class clown. Despite not being particularly smart, I ran for class president and even served as the team captain during sports festivals. For the cultural festival, I teamed up with a classmate for a comedy duo performance, and in football, I practiced more passionately than anyone else, earning a spot in a game despite lacking the skills for regular play. I repeatedly approached a classmate who seemed lonely reading alone, and after numerous attempts, managed to make them smile once. That smile was so charming, and soon, they hardly had any time to read alone as they made more and more friends. I believe I was fortunate to have such a fulfilling school life, surrounded by many friends and juniors. However, as high school entrance exams approached, my father's job relocation was decided. It was to a distant place, expected to be long-term, so our family of 3 had to move. "George can make it fun anywhere." That's what my friends said, crying as they saw me off until the very end. Looking at a soccer ball signed with many messages, I felt sad, realizing that even if I returned, everyone would have moved on to different lives. In a new place with no acquaintances and little love for studying, the idea of commuting 2 hours to high school didn't appeal to me, so I chose not to take the entrance exams. Understanding my feelings, my parents allowed me to start working part-time at a gas station. At first, I didn't just understand anything at all. But the manager and the staff at my part-time job were also kind and nice that, by just keeping a smile on my face, I quickly became close to everyone. We would visit each other's homes and go out for meals, actively engaging with people around us. Gradually, I got the hang of the job. Despite initial anxieties, laughing through it taught me that everything would be all right in this new place. However, about a month after moving, I suffered severe nausea and fever one night and had to wake my sleeping parents. In a panic, they called for an ambulance but were turned down by several places, so my father decided to drive me to the hospital. I was jostled for about 4 hours in the car driven by my father, heading to the hospital. In the car, I was deliriously saying, "I want to go home." Surely, it wasn't just that I wanted to return to our house. Perhaps I longed to go back to that day. I still feel a deep nostalgia for the place I grew up, even though I find fulfillment in my daily life now. The silent apology from my father was hard to distinguish between reality and a dream. By the time we reached the hospital, I could barely walk straight due to my blurred vision. As I was carried to the bed by my father, I wondered if this hospital didn't even have wheelchairs. After that, it seems I was mostly unconscious, as if asleep. "It's good that you had a car. If we had been half a day later, there might have been nothing we could do," I heard someone say in the distance. I didn't hear the diagnosis clearly, but they talked about it being a contagious disease and needing to stay hospitalized until all the bad bacteria were expelled from my body. My father had to return to work the next day but said my mother would bring my things. The next day, I felt surprisingly fine, as if the previous day's sickness was a lie. Looking at the 4 connected to my arm, I was amazed by the power of medicine. "Good morning, George. How are you feeling?" A female doctor approached my bedside, comparing my face with my chart. "Ah, good morning. I'm feeling much better, thank you. Your complexion isn't bad, and your blood pressure is normal. You're fully conscious too. You'll need to stay hospitalized for a week until all the bad bacteria are gone. But once you're here, you're going to be okay. I told your father to. How lucky it was that he had a car." "There aren't many hospitals around this area, are there?" "That's right. Just a fever, just dehydration. But without proper treatment, it could be dangerous." I glanced at the name tag hanging around the neck of the female doctor who was looking down at the chart. It read Dr. Emily Johnson. She might be around 30 years old. I thought she was a woman with beautiful, downcast eyes. "You were lucky, George." A mother carrying a small child came in crying, begging for help, but even after doing everything we could for that child, and even though they finally made it to this small hospital, "I'm sorry, I just needed someone to listen. But I've spoken too much. I fail as a doctor, I guess." "Not at all. I'd like to hear more about your experiences." Dr. Johnson, surprised, then smiled warmly. After her shift, Dr. Johnson, now in casual clothes, shared various stories with me about critically ill patients who took hours to be brought to this hospital, about children dying because their consultation was delayed. Moreover, natural disasters are frequent, blocking roads and necessitating large-scale emergency medical responses. But she couldn't overlook the patients brought to her. Parents ready to take their barely clinging to life children home because they couldn't afford the medical bills, despite the scarce medicine and beds. Initially, overwhelmed by the number of lives she couldn't save, she questioned her decision to continue as a doctor in this place daily. However, she concluded with a smile that as long as there was one life she could save, she would stay here. I was deeply moved by Dr. Johnson's strong conviction. We talked many times until my discharge, and she gave me various advice about the future. Going to medical school. I wonder. After being discharged, I discussed with my parents the possibility of becoming a doctor, but they gently suggested it might be difficult with my academic background. Dr. Johnson had taught me at the hospital that there are many jobs where one can be involved in healthcare, even if not as a doctor. However, she also mentioned it would be good to have a high school diploma. Eventually, my father's transfer ended, and we returned to our hometown. I reunited with classmates who had gone on to study and live normally. "Hey George, long time no see. You've gotten tan." "Hey, long time. You guys still playing football?" The football club kind of fell apart after the star player, number 10, started dating with one of cheerleader girls. Really, I thought to myself how peaceful it was. If I hadn't moved, would I have also fallen in love like everyone else, detouring on my way home to talk about yesterday's TV show, living an ordinary yet happy life? Over these years, I believe everyone has been living desperately, each harboring their thoughts and feelings. However, we enjoyed idle chatter at fast food restaurant after extracurricular activities. Though invisible, I definitely felt a barrier between us. I studied hard while working part-time. I wanted to study, even from now. I decided to make up for lost time. Not wanting to waste even a moment, and not wishing to mix into a regular high school experience at this point, I enrolled in a night school. Contrary to the troubled student image often portrayed in dramas, my night school peers were all seriously dedicated to their studies. Some were even older than me. Their longer life experiences provided valuable lessons. "Why did you start attending night school, Tyler?" Tyler, always in work clothes, rushing into the classroom just in time for the bell to start. He's currently an employee at a local factory, but he shared his plans to eventually start his own business. He admitted to having gotten into trouble a lot in the past and barely attended school. He thought acting tough was cool, but once he entered society, he realized how little he knew and felt embarrassed time and again. He laughed, saying he was determined to prove wrong those who had laughed at him. to build a big company that would outshine them all. I was surprised to find out he was only a year older than me, thinking he was in his late 20s. I figured the weight of a life full of ups and downs must be the reason. You should also consider your dream, George. Tyler slapped me hard on the back, his back looking incredibly strong as he did so. And so, I was able to graduate from night school without any issues. Somehow, I managed to pass the exams and, thanks to my strong interview skills, landed a job at the medical equipment manufacturer I had hoped for. I often got laughed at for my struggle with math, but I made sure never to make the same mistake twice by taking diligent notes and was recognized for my eager work attitude by my supervisors and seniors. Perhaps due to actively engaging with others, like I did in elementary and middle school, my work gradually started to get acknowledged. A few years after joining the company, while continuing my studies and working through busy days, I ended up having subordinates. And then, a junior named Michael transferred to our department. This Michael was quite the character. As a department leader, I was the first to speak to him. "Nice to meet you, I'm George. I'm the leader of this department, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask." I hadn't known his name yet, so I glanced at his name tag. "I'm Michael," he said, diverting his gaze and scanning the department. Trying to cover up my confusion, I kept talking in my usual manner. "That's a nice name. Your parents must have put a lot of thought into it. Could you not discuss personal matters so openly in front of everyone, or is it normal here to share everything? Though everyone know that George didn't finish middle school. My bad. For the record, I did graduate high school, even if it was a night school." "Yes, I know. I'm well connected with HR. Well, a night school diploma is hardly worth anything, right? Maybe you should have researched the personnel transferring to your department beforehand." The department became uneasy. Michael had graduated from the prestigious private university's School of Business and wanted to test his abilities in a completely different field. I felt uncomfortable, but I maintained a smiling facade in my professional interactions. Perhaps that got under his skin. Michael deliberately did the opposite of what I instructed, and when mistakes arose from his actions, he dumped them on me, forcing me to handle the overtime work. Such menial tasks, even a night school grad can handle them, right? No need for an elite like me. He kept bringing up academic credentials, pushing me to my limit. Alex, having seen this behavior, suggested taking some action, but I asked to be the one to guide him, given that he was, after all, my junior. I thought that interacting with him might prove beneficial in the long run, and I was curious to hear Michael's true thoughts someday. However, my hopes hardly reached him, as Michael would disappear for 30 minutes during cigarette breaks. During these days, a request for a quote for a large medical equipment deal from overseas arrived. It was a crucial project that everyone in the department agreed we couldn't miss. This could be the biggest contract since I started working at the company. Just as I began compiling the documents, "I'll go," Michael eagerly volunteered. "I'll secure the contract for us. Impossible for George, a night school grad. Leave it to me, a graduate of a prestigious private university." With that, Michael snatched the documents from my hands and started arranging them on his desk. Alex sighed as if he had made up his mind after seeing this. "Reliable indeed. Then I'm counting on you for the contract in Africa." "Yes, leave it to me. Africa." "Yes, the Republic of Mozambique in Africa. About a 26-hour one-way trip." Okay." Alex and I exchanged looks and nodded. "Let's send Michael alone. He needs to learn a few things. Use those management skills you honed at your prestigious private university to their fullest." "Yes, okay." His confidence from moments ago vanished, leaving only a nervous reply. Worried that Michael might have overlooked something in the documents while distracted, I secretly reviewed them after he left and, sure enough, found and corrected the missing parts. A few days later, as expected, I received a call from Michael. Judging by the timing, he was probably in a taxi from the airport to the destination and just arrived near the site. It's something that would make the highly educated shake their heads in disbelief. "Hello, what's up? Please, help me." I silently checked the time while holding my cell phone to my ear. "I can communicate with anyone here." "Well, you're in Mozambique. You could have figured that out with a bit of research." "I'm using a Portuguese translator, but it's not working. What should I do?" Imagining Michael's near-tears face, I couldn't help but find it amusing. "Well, you're in the countryside. You need to speak the local language. Have you arrived at your destination yet?" "The local language. I've been in this taxi for over an hour, but we seem to be driving through places that don't look like roads. I'm not even sure we'll get there. I'm lost." Irritated by his sniffling, I ended the call. It seemed he would arrive around the same time as expected. After discussing with Alex, we concluded that letting Michael go alone was too much to handle. Since it was originally my project, I decided to follow up and support him. For Michael's growth, for the company, and because I had grown fond of the African lands during my father's transfer, I wanted to return. As the taxi jostled me, I reminisced about the past. The kind manager and co-workers from my part-time job. They taught me, word by word, when I knew nothing. My friends taught me to stay positive and that everything would work out with a smile. And Dr. Emily Johnson, who taught me the importance of holding on to convictions. Lost in memories, I arrived before I knew it. Michael was found crouching under a tree, holding his head. "What are you doing?" "Taking a break as usual." "George, why are you here?" Michael stood up, staggering towards me, clinging on for support. His eyes were filled with tears. "I will explain later. Let's go." "But if we can't communicate, how are we supposed to secure the contract?" Ignoring him, I quickly entered the facility. After informing the receptionist of the contact person's name, we were led to a private room. There was hand sanitizer at the entrance and extra wheelchairs available. It was a well-equipped new hospital. The deal went smoothly in Portuguese, and we received the signature. When I mentioned wanting to greet the facility's director, they told us to wait while they called them over. "George, you can speak Portuguese." "Not just Portuguese. Umbundu, Kimbundu, and a bit of Czechwana that I was taught." "So, you understood everything." As the door opened, Michael and I stood up. "Dr. Johnson." "Ah, the American boy from back then. I'm George. You remember me." "What a surprise. I never thought you'd actually be working in the medical field." We exchanged a warm handshake. There was too much we wanted to talk and ask about, not enough time. We exchanged contact information, promising to meet again. Seeing Dr. Johnson unchanged from those days and realizing how far I've come was profoundly gratifying. My heart was full. On the taxi ride back, Michael spoke to me. "Why, how did you, a night school grad, manage to learn so many languages? Do you always have to mention educational backgrounds?" "Actually, I came here during middle school because of my father's transfer. We were in Angola, where Portuguese is the official language. At first, I didn't understand anything and wanted to go home, but living in America, I'd never have experienced surviving in a place where unknown languages were spoken all around me, so I decided to dive in. Plus, everyone was so nice and always smiling. They taught me that with a smile, anything is possible. Compared to the barriers of youth, language barriers are nothing. I thought of my classmates who continued their unchanged lives in our hometown after I left, feeling a pang in my chest. I just did the best I could at the time, same as everyone else. You worked hard for your exams too, right? Well, yeah. Michael fell silent, looking out the window. Thank you. Why so sudden? Kinda creepy, man. In my family, everyone emphasizes educational background, all having graduated from prestigious universities. Academic background again, huh? Yes, that's true, but it's different. My grandfather and father both graduated from T University, my mother from K University, and my brother from O University. Then there's me, who didn't make it into my first choice and ended up at private A University. Even though a university is considered prestigious by society, my family always ridiculed me for it. It's frustrating. But I wasn't clever enough to talk back to them. I was just a bundle of complexes. So, outside the house, I had to pretend. Looking down on anyone I felt was beneath me, just to maintain my self-esteem. It was as if I couldn't see anyone but myself. I felt a bit of sorry for the deflated and slumped Michael. In such a family environment, it might indeed be hard to have empathy for others. I'm sorry, you were impressive, handling the contract in Portuguese. Academic background doesn't matter, right? I've always wanted someone to tell me that what's important isn't your educational background, that a person can be measured just by their degrees. I'm glad you finally said it. Michael apologized sincerely. I ruffled his hair affectionately in response. I was again reminded of how grateful I am to have come to this place. Had even one thing been missing, neither the person I am now, nor my relationship with Michael would exist. Back in America, Michael and I went to a bar. Dr. Johnson contacted us, saying she was back in America, so the three of us met up. Dr. Johnson, tearing up while biting into the steaming macaroni and cheese, said American food was the best. She looked just as beautiful as she did back then. Michael, now in high spirits, downed his sake. Dr. Johnson had been working as a doctor while also involved in establishing hospitals. She wanted to build hospitals in areas without any, fighting various battles with the sole purpose of saving as many lives as possible. Now she had risen to the position of project leader. It must have been a challenging journey. Compared to Dr. Johnson, who has made a global impact, I still have much to learn. But considering I was just a patient back then and now work for a medical equipment manufacturer involved in saving lives, and have reunited with Dr. Johnson, it's something I'm proud of. We were overwhelmed with the realization of our dreams. All right, let's toast. We're going to save the world. A tipsy Michael raised his glass. The other customers in the restaurant turned around, laughing and applauding. I thought, what a warm country this is. All three of us emptied our glasses of wine. Everyone in the department was surprised by the change in my relationship with Michael. Only Alex seemed to understand everything, nodding with a smile. He said it was a bit scary how things went exactly as planned. The HR person who had sensed Michael's true nature from the start really had an eye for talent. Michael and I continued to be responsible for delivering equipment to Africa. We signed a contract with the hospital Dr. Johnson established and flew to Africa several times. Each time we met Dr. Johnson, we had passionate conversations. Michael and I were on a bus heading to an African hospital, an hour and a half into the journey. Even in such a remote island nation, there were settlements of people waiting for medical aid. And Dr. Johnson had built a hospital to save those people. I resolved to continue doing my best in whatever way I can. As I was lost in these thoughts, rocked by the bus, about an hour and a half must have passed. Without any warning, a torrential rain suddenly began to pour down. The interior of the bus started to buzz with an ease. This sudden downpour wasn't predicted by the weather forecast. I broke out in an uncomfortable sweat. Michael, sitting next to me, also looked anxious. I tried calling the hospital we were delivering to with my cell phone, but it was either busy or didn't connect after several attempts. The rain obscured the view, and eventually, the bus stopped. Passengers and the driver were exchanging words in Portuguese. We can reach our destination by walking if we stop here. It's impossible to go any further. I can't see where the road ends and the river begins. Then what are we supposed to do? Do whatever you want. We can only stay inside the bus until the rain stops. If the bus gets flooded, climb to the roof. Wait for help. That's all we can do." The driver's words made sense. Checking the map, there were no facilities nearby to take shelter in, so waiting for the rain to stop seemed like the only option. The hospital remained unreachable. Concerned about my phone's battery, I contacted the company and also reached out to Alex. Then, I called Dr. Johnson's cell phone number. After a few rings, it went to voicemail. "Dr. Johnson, this is George. We're currently stuck in a bus headed to Hospital A due to a sudden downpour and won't be able to make our 11 a.m. delivery. I can't get through to the hospital either. Please call back when you hear this." After hanging up, I looked around the bus. Passengers were panicking, some praying silently, and the driver, who was trying to call for help without success, was tuning the radio. The rain intensified, and water began seeping into the bus. The driver, seemingly giving up, turned off the engine. Children were crying. Parents hugged their children, praying. I felt utterly powerless. The water level rose above the seats, and the wind grew stronger. Despite the high temperature, if this continued, we risked hypothermia or drowning. "Are we going to end up dying here? Don't be ridiculous. You can whine all you want later. Right now, focus on surviving." Even as I said that, I shivered with cold from the rainwater that had reached my knees. How long had it been? Dr. Johnson called back. "Hello, this is George. Where are you now? Have emergency services arrived? Are there any injured?" After explaining our situation, Dr. Johnson said her hospital was also flooded, receiving a steady flow of emergency patients, and they were short on ambulances. Her calm and warm voice almost made me cry. "Don't worry, the rain will stop. We will definitely save you. The lives you can save are for you to protect. Understand?" Yes. Dr. Johnson's words were like medicine to my weakened spirit. I clenched my fist tightly and stood up. "Everyone, the water level will surpass our height if we stay here. We need to climb onto the roof of the bus and wait for rescue. This American man and the driver will go up first and will prioritize helping children and women." Speaking in Portuguese, the driver and passengers cooperated, and we all managed to climb onto the roof. The muddy rainwater had reached above our chests. While on the roof, I went around asking if there were any injured or sick. As the rain gradually lightened, cheers of joy began to rise. And then, through the thinning clouds, a ray of sunlight shone down. It was a more striking scene than any I had ever witnessed. I let out a sigh of relief. Some time later, the rescue team arrived. Everyone was safely rescued, and both Michael and I were transported to the nearest hospital. Since there were no health issues, we decided to stay at a hotel after leaving the hospital. After finishing communications with the company, I stared at my cell phone. I wondered, how is Dr. Johnson doing right now? Then, a call came in from her. "It's like telepathy. I was just thinking about you." "What are you talking about?" "Well, it seems you're okay then." "Yes, everyone was rescued, and we're staying at a hotel." "That's good to hear. You did well. Listen, I haven't slept since my shift yesterday because of today's downpour and the continuous emergencies. Dr. Johnson had been pulled into emergency medical service for a full 2 days. Yet, her complaint sounded somewhat lively. "I'm so tired I could die. I wish I could have some wine. Let's go when things settle down." "Well, that sounds wonderful." Her words trailed off into sleep, and her breathing became steady, so I quietly put down the phone without hanging up, not to wake her. Due to the hotel being a refuge for many, Michael and I had to share a room, which was unfortunate, but it might have been better than being alone. It had been a long day. It was also a day when I faced the preciousness of life firsthand. I felt grateful for my work and my life. Perhaps thanks to Michael's snoring serving as background music, I was able to sleep soundly. Despite the schedule changes, we successfully completed the delivery. We also managed to secure a new contract and received praise from Alex for being a good team. Michael helps me out with math, which I still struggle with. He always follows me fearlessly to any sales destination. Work has become more enjoyable than ever before. Years later, on a peaceful morning, I was sipping my usual coffee when I spotted a familiar face in a newspaper insert. It was Tyler, who was always in his work clothes when we were together in night school. Dressed sharply in a suit, he was pictured in a recruitment ad alongside a young man who appeared to be an employee. He had achieved his dream. His photo showed a great smile. "Look at this, Tyler from night school. He's become a respectable company president," I mentioned to Dr. Johnson. "Well, that's impressive. He's really making a mark." Dr. Johnson peered over at the advertisement through the video call screen. Though Dr. Johnson and I kept in touch, our relationship wasn't casually defined by love or romance. Maybe that was just my perception, but we had always maintained a comfortable distance. Achieved dreams make for beautiful smiles, just like yours. What? I couldn't hear you well. The signal is bad. Then I'll tell you when you are back to America. I'll look forward to it. Don't forget to bring the wine. I put away the insert and reflected on the past. Achieving dreams isn't solely about educational background, nor can it always be accomplished with just determination. But with strong convictions, the path becomes clear. How to walk that path is up to oneself. I'm determined to proceed without hesitation. The guidance is already within my heart. Flipping the calendar, eagerly awaiting the comeback of Dr. Johnson, I headed to the office. My wife works as a secretary at a major corporation. Someone like you, who only graduated high school and lacks skills, probably doesn't even have such connections. A middle school classmate of mine, Tom, mocks me. The stress from continuously failing the bar exam must be significant. I can help but feel sympathy for him, yet it seems Tom prefers to pity me instead. Indeed, I only graduated from high school and have never been married. If belittling those around him helps him forget his own misery, then so be it. Oh, speak of the devil, looks like your wife has arrived. How do you know what my wife looks like? We've met a few times before. Tom's wife, Emma, approaches us with a smile but turns pale upon seeing me. I'm terribly sorry for the other day. What are you saying, Emma? This guy is a failure in life. Unaware of the whole story, Emma begins to explain the situation to Tom, looking quite embarrassed. My name is John. I'm 42 years old and the president of a leading confectionery company called Smith Confectionery. Time flies. It's already been 12 years since I took over as president. However, I wasn't always destined to be the president from the start. The company was founded by my grandfather, who had 2 sons. My father was the younger son, and the company was inherited by my uncle, the elder son. Both my father and uncle had their own families. My father had me, and my uncle had a son named Wilson. Wilson and I, being the only child and close in age, got along well. Wilson felt quite pressured by the fact that his father was the president of a major corporation. John, you're lucky. You can choose your own path. It seems like everything has already been decided for me, so I can't even dream. Every time we met, Wilson would express his feelings like this. Normally, people would think being promised the position of president is a fortunate thing. But I didn't envy Wilson's situation either. It's not that I dislike my uncle's company or anything. I believe the privilege of youth is to dream. As we grow older, we're forced to confront the realities that challenge the dreams we had in our youth, one by one. But that was a concern for the future, and we, being young, had every right to dream. In that sense, Wilson's options were limited, and I could understand his dissatisfaction. Eventually, as I was considering which university to attend after high school, I wanted a career that involved interacting with foreign cultures, so I aimed to enroll in a university in France. Wilson was in his second year at an American university, studying economics. I successfully got into a university in Paris and made the move. Everything I saw and experienced was not only fresh but also enlightening, making every day fulfilling. During my second year at university, my fate took a significant turn. Wilson was involved in a car accident, rear-ended by a truck, and passed away. My uncle was deeply distressed, affecting even the management of the company. After the funeral, as I was about to return to France, my uncle and father stopped me. "Could you take over the company in Wilson's place? We'd like you to leave university immediately and join our company. This is our request as well. You might have had various things you wanted to do, but there are many experiences only available to those at the top of a company. Please, help our company." I wish I could say I was torn, but I wasn't even allowed the luxury of hesitation. Thus, I dropped out of university and joined my uncle's company as the executive vice president. 10 years later, upon my uncle's passing, I took over as the president. This year, at the age of 42, I received an invitation to a middle school reunion. There's a handwritten message from Bob, who's organizing the event. Without John, who was always at the top of our class, it just wouldn't be the same. We're all getting older, and I'd love to catch up and share our current situations. I let out a heavy sigh, wondering, what should I do? My memories from middle school aren't particularly fond ones. It might seem odd that I have no fond memories despite consistently being at the top of my class. I didn't necessarily care about being the top student. It was because there was a student who desperately wanted that top spot. His name was Tom. His parents were extremely focused on education, sending him to supplemental classes from a young age. They had wanted to send him to elite private schools for both elementary and middle school, but he failed the entrance exams for both, ending up at the same school as us local kids. So, for him, not being the top student in a public middle school was out of the question. Unfortunately for him, I was in the same grade and consistently secured the top spot in terms of grades. Tom tried desperately to outdo me, but he never managed to. Since I didn't attend any supplemental classes, Tom became even more envious of me. "How come you get such good grades without even going to supplemental classes?" What can I say? Maybe because I pay attention in class. I pay attention too. Although I didn't need to be the top student, exam results were an important measure of my abilities. So I had no intention of slacking off and giving up my position. Wanting to be at the top in any way possible, Tom ran for class rep. Since no one else was interested, he automatically became the class rep. He showed his strength in assigning groups and distributing responsibilities for school events, subtly putting me in difficult positions. He put the worst troublemakers of my group and would say, "I'll tell John about the important school announcements," but then he'd just not do it. The next day, I'd be the only one out of the loop and scrambling, but since teachers tend to be lenient with high-achieving students, it was usually brushed off with a wry smile. I wonder if teachers will also attend the reunion. I thought about just sending a message of greeting, but Bob personally called and insisted I come, so I reluctantly agreed to attend. The reunion is being held at a spacious restaurant in New York. It's a restaurant known for its beautiful interior, often used for weddings or gathering events. Since most of my classmates live near New York, it was a good choice. Those who stayed in town were also happy to attend, seeing it as an opportunity for a sightseeing trip. The plan is to bring families along and have a lively gathering, so I'll be able to meet classmates' spouses and children. I only know them from 27 years ago in their school uniforms, so I was a bit anxious arriving at the venue, unsure if I could recognize who were my classmates and who were their partners. I thought I might have arrived a bit too early, but seeing some people inside, I decided to go ahead and open the door. As soon as I enter, a tall, thin man with a balding head approaches me with open arms. "John, you haven't changed a bit." Before I can respond, he hugs me. I'm surprised by his friendliness, but then again, it's been 27 years, so it's natural for personalities to change. There's a man with a 3-year-old boy. And next to him, a woman greets me, leaving me to wonder which one is my classmate. Feeling bewildered, I consciously smile and return the greeting. A woman with a fuller figure and a wide belt hands me a glass of wine, saying, "Long time no see, John." I have no idea who anyone is, and with each greeting, I offer a polite smile. Despite my lack of memory, it seems I stood out in some way, as everyone remembers me. Do I really look the same? You haven't changed at all. You're still as handsome as ever. Bob, on the other hand, is already in a precarious situation with his hair. Hey, come on. I'm sensitive about that, so don't bring it up. It's as if we've all been together up until yesterday, easily exchanging words. The only person I can somewhat recognize is Bob, but I can't remember the name of the woman I'm currently talking to at all. When I sign the attendance sheet, I see that 9 others have already arrived. How many attendees are there? This restaurant might burst at the seams if everyone shows up, right? Probably around 12 in total. Everyone's pretty busy, so quite a few couldn't make it, but some did send messages. Considering our age, it's not bad that this many of us could gather. Hearing about those who opted for just a message, I somewhat regretted not doing the same. The buffet is already set up, and some parents are impatiently serving food onto plates for their children. I sit idly by the counter, wine glass in hand, feeling somewhat out of place. Then, Bob quietly takes a seat next to me. I've always wondered about your final educational background. I pictured you graduating from some prestigious overseas university. No, I'm just a high school grad. Various things happened, and I ended up working at my uncle's company. Bob looks at me with surprise. Really? That's unexpected. In marriage? I'm not married, but just then, the restaurant door opens and a weary-faced man enters. As soon as he sees me, his face stiffens. Bob calls out, "Tom, good to see you made it." That's when I realize the man was Tom. Tom greets us briefly and looks around nervously. After signing the guest book and receiving a wine glass, he starts chatting with Bob. "How's it going? You'll pass the bar exam this year, right? Having a lawyer friend would be reassuring." "I know, I've been busy with a lot of things and couldn't focus on studying, but I'll pass this year for sure." Listening to their conversation, it seems Tom is still trying to pass the bar exam. Everyone has their struggles. I thought John had made it big, but it turns out he's just a high school grad and not even married. Life doesn't always go as planned. Huh? What? A high school grad? Seriously, that's the worst. Tom turns to me with a suddenly smug smile. "It's been a while, John," Tom says as he approaches. I reluctantly smile back and shake hands with Tom. "Not married yet. I thought you'd be some big shot by now. Meanwhile, my wife is a secretary at a major corporation. A high school grad like you wouldn't have such opportunities." Tom seizes the opportunity to mock me. Finding someone he perceives as weaker, especially someone he's always harbored animosity towards, must be quite satisfying for him. He's always been the type to boost his self-esteem by putting others down. This stress from continually failing the bar exam, even at 42, must be significant. I can't help but feel sympathy for him, yet it seems Tom wants to pity me instead. Indeed, I'm just a high school grad with no marriage history. If belittling those around him helps him forget his own misery, then so be it. Tom looks at me with a sense of superiority. I avert my gaze, feeling slightly uncomfortable. He probably misinterprets this as a sign of inferiority. He pats my shoulder with a broad smile. Marriage is great. My wife supports me through the bar exams, and working at a big company means we're financially comfortable. But I guess there aren't many women who would settle for a dull guy like you. That's great. You've got an understanding wife. Speaking of big companies, could it be Johnson Trading by any chance? Tom's face drops in surprise. How did you know? I nod, realizing it was as I thought. More attendees arrive at the restaurant, including a family of 4 with 2 kids. Seemingly a couple who were classmates. It's good to see everyone looking happy. I silently finished my wine and say to Tom, "You'll have another, right?" before ordering 2 more glasses of wine from the bartender. So, what about the high school grad part? I was attending a university in France, but my uncle asked me to come back to take over the company, so I ended up dropping out after 2 years. That's why my highest level of education is high school, I explained. Tom fell silent, looking displeased. Perhaps he was disappointed rather than sympathetic towards my situation. Glancing out the window, I noticed the rain starting to fall, with umbrellas blooming one after another. I wondered if those still on their way had brought umbrellas, thinking about it as if it were someone else's concern. Since I hadn't brought an umbrella, I realized I'd need to buy one from a nearby store. While we were talking, the restaurant door opened, and a woman dressed in a blue suit came in. It seemed she had gotten wet without an umbrella, as she brushed the raindrops off her suit. "Speak of the devil, looks like your wife just arrived," I said. "How do you know what my wife looks like? We've met a few times before." I was well acquainted with the woman, Emma, but had no idea she was Tom's wife. She was known in my company for her hard work supporting her unemployed husband as he pursued his dreams. Emma, who approached Tom with a smile, turned pale upon seeing me. She approached with a flustered demeanor. "I'm terribly sorry for the inconvenience the other day." "What are you saying, Emma? This guy is a loser in life." "What are you talking about? This man is the president of Smith Confectionery." I watched Tom's stunned look with amusement. Unaware of the whole situation, Emma began to explain my circumstances to Tom with an apologetic tone. Emma's employer, Johnson Trading, had business dealings with my company, Smith Confectionery. Indeed, Johnson Trading is a major corporation, and Emma's role as a secretary is true. However, she is a secretary not for the company president but for a sales director, and we didn't meet all that often. Recently, the sales director, Max, was scheduled to visit me, but he never showed up. Being busy as a company president, I left the matter to someone else and moved on to the next meeting. I later found out that due to a scheduling mistake by Emma, the department secretary, the meeting was missed. The next day, Max and his secretary Emma came to apologize to me. Emma, who seemed to have been severely reprimanded, was on the verge of tears. She never expected to meet me again as Tom's wife. I don't mind it anymore, but remember, people in management often run on a very tight schedule. Please ensure such incidents don't happen again. Of course, I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience. Tom must have felt quite humiliated to see his wife apologizing to me. As I finished the second glass of wine, our conversation was momentarily paused by Bob's call to action. "Let's get started, shall we?" Bob led the toast, and everyone raised their glasses, saying, "Cheers." The event then shifted to free talk without any set agenda. While Tom was still in shock, Emma tried her best to keep me in good spirits. "Mr. Smith, how is your wife doing?" "What are you talking about?" Bob said. "John isn't married." "Oh, but he is. We often meet at parties. She's the same age as me, 38, very graceful and beautiful." Tom looked astonished as more of my successful aspects came to light. As I told Bob, I'm not married, but as Emma mentioned, I do have a wife. Her name is Emily. We're in a common law marriage. Emily, 38 years old, is the development director at a foreign cosmetics company. We met when I was in France. Emily, now an American citizen, was born in France and lived in various countries due to her father's job transfers. 4 years younger than me, Emily was a high school student at the time, and we met for volunteer activities. Despite her youth, she had a solid way of thinking, and I deeply respected her remarkable character. After I returned to the U.S. and joined Smith Confectionery, our relationship became long distance, but the physical distance was never an issue for us. While studying at a university in France, Emily would come to the U.S. during her long vacations to enjoy dates with me. After graduating, she joined a foreign cosmetics company, worked hard, and climbed a career ladder successfully. I always wanted to support her career fully, but also hoped to share our lives together. When Emily was transferred to the American branch, I proposed, and we started our married life without officially registering our marriage. This year marks the 10th anniversary of our common-law marriage. I explained this to Tom and Emma. "That's pretty cool. It's clear you both respect each other's careers and have mutual admiration," Emma remarked with enthusiasm. "Since today's reunion invited families, I think she'll come after work," I mentioned. "Oh, I'd love to see her again. I wonder if she remembers me," Emma said, her excitement palpable, while Tom appeared quite deflated. No wonder, as he probably thought he could look down on me, only for the conversation to take unexpected turns. Soon, the restaurant door opened, and a woman in a beige dress entered. Upon spotting me, she called out, "John," and ran towards me, leaping into my arms. We hugged as usual and shared a passionate kiss. Holding Emily in my arms, I introduced her, saying, "This is my wife, Emily." Emily quickly blended in, leaving me aside as she mingled with everyone. After a while, she returned to us, and Tom and Emma had become noticeably quieter. I briefed Emily on Tom and Emma's situation. "Tom's the same age as you, John, so he's 42, right? Is he still attempting the bar exam?" Emily asked, a bit bluntly. "Emily, that's rude. Don't be so direct," I cautioned her. "Sorry, but it's been 20 years since college, right? Continuing as a paralegal and studying for the exam must be tough," she reasoned. Emma hesitantly spoke up. "Tom hasn't been working at all. We've been living off what I earn. It's been quite tiring." "What? Tom isn't working? That doesn't seem fair in a marriage," Emily remarked, causing me to quickly pull her aside. "There are 100 ways to live for 100 couples. Don't say strange things that might upset Emma," I told her. "I'm sorry. I forgot how different the American bar exam is from France's. My apologies, Emma, for saying anything that might have seemed critical of your relationship," Emily apologized. Emma offered a small smile and assured, "I don't mind," although her expression suggested otherwise. I surmised that Emily's comments had indeed affected Emma. According to a colleague familiar with Emma, she married right after starting her job. It is meaning she's been supporting Tom's dream for 16 years. Dreaming is a human privilege, and maintaining hope at any age is crucial. Being able to continue dreaming even at the ages of 80 or 90 would certainly make for a wonderful life. However, I personally would not pursue my dreams at the expense of someone close to me. Many believe that giving up on a long-pursued dream leaves them with nothing. This is a common sentiment, but I think differently. I believe that critical thinking, physical strength, and seemingly unrelated skills developed through the process of striving will undoubtedly be useful when embarking on a different path. This is merely my perspective, and if Emma is content with her situation, I have no intention of interfering. Every year, there are bar exam passers who are over 60. It proves that it's never too late to keep trying. Tom, being somewhat vain, probably wished to attend the reunion as a certified lawyer. I wonder how many more years he plans to rely on Emma. Once he passes the bar and becomes a lawyer, I think Emma has every right to make some demands. After the reunion ended without incident, Emily and I decided not to attend the after party and headed home. Did I say too much? If Emma is happy with how things are, that's all that matters. I'm still learning the American way of thinking from you, John. But it always seems to come after I've already said something. Emily pondered. I'm sure there are others who offer similar advice to Emma. If she's fine with Tom not working at all, then all we can do is to support them. I reassured her, holding her hand tightly to comfort her. Emily leaned into me, and I wrapped an arm around her shoulder as we walked to the station. Later, through a group message created for the reunion, we learned that Tom had failed the exam again this year. Everyone started posting encouraging messages like, "That's too bad and better luck next year." Tom didn't respond and soon quietly left the group chat. None of the other members knew what happened to him after that. However, since I often worked with Emma, I heard the rest of the story. Failing the exam again was a hard pill for Tom to swallow. He began to drown his sorrows in alcohol. Even though the money for the drinks came from Emma's earnings, without a word of gratitude. His studies suffered, and he frequently mumbled, "I was just unlucky," while drinking. According to Emma, meeting me at the reunion also contributed to his loss of motivation. He initially misunderstood you as a high school graduate and single, which he thought would give him a sense of superiority. Instead, he was shown a different class altogether. Rivalry can be a tricky thing, she explained. "So, you're going to continue supporting Tom as before?" I asked. "Well, I've been offered a job overseas. It's a great opportunity and exactly what I wanted to do. I don't have the capacity to support anyone else right now," she revealed. Emmy asked Tom to consider working while studying for his exams. However, Tom was convinced that working would hinder his studies. "Then let's part ways. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. I want to take a chance on it," Emma declared. She packed her belongings into a trunk and set off for her new posting. But who could truly call Emma heartless? Emma seemed to make up her mind on divorce. Left alone, Tom, having relied on Emma for household chores, resorted to a diet of macaroni and cheese. Yet, he insists on continuing to take the bar exam until he passes, even though he can't quit drinking. It's hard to imagine a bright future for Tom, and I'm probably not the only one who thinks so. A year after the reunion, I attended a wedding between classmates. Both the bride and groom were divorced, with children close in age. It seems they reconnected at the reunion and finally acknowledged their feelings from middle school. Once they confirmed their feelings, everything quickly fell into place, leading to their remarriage with children in tow. Emily and I were invited as a couple. Family is wonderful, isn't it? Maybe I should have had children too. Emily mused, her words lingering in the air. Even someone as beautiful and talented as Emily, with a successful career, can have regrets in life. We're a fine family as we are, aren't we? We don't need children to be happy, I reassured her. I know, it's just wishful thinking, she replied. There are many forms of family, and happiness varies depending on what one values. We have our own way of life, and we're living it to the fullest. The key is not to compare ourselves with others. Tom's unhappiness stemmed from constantly comparing himself to me. Once we start comparing ourselves to others, our happiness starts to fade away. I'm happy with our family, Emily. I'm happy with our family too, John. Gently holding hands across the table. I'm willing to do anything to make this happiness last forever. You're the chef, a scruffy old man like you. Give me a break. Sighing heavily and shaking his head was the younger head chef. Why on earth would someone like you be working here? Has HR finally lost its touch? Just do some cleaning or something. That's more your style. With a look of utter disgust, he pointed me out and assigned me some cleaning tasks before returning to the kitchen. I'm reaching my limit of patience. I came here to cook. A month later, when the head chef couldn't cook anymore, I stepped in and cooked. Who made this dish? That was the moment my life took a dramatic turn. My name is Jack. Due to certain circumstances, I'm unemployed. Fortunately, I had some savings, so I thought of this as a summer break from life and didn't work for a while, but I have a family to consider. Just as I was thinking it was time to start working again, I got an offer from Frederick, an acquaintance, who asked me, how about cooking at my place? The job was at an upscale restaurant frequented by politicians and top entertainers. It's been a while since you last worked, but with your skills, you'll be fine, right? I didn't graduate from high school, nor did I attend a culinary school, but I'm confident in my cooking skills. And Frederick saw that talent in me and invited me. I couldn't let him down. Leave it to me, I replied with enthusiasm. This upscale restaurant, spread across major cities, was quite a large operation. It was divided into various sections like reception, service, cleaning, each with regular training and workshops, not just cooking. My name is Jack. Starting today, I'll be in the cooking department. I'm looking forward to working with you. On my first day, eager to make a good impression, I greeted everyone cheerfully, but the man in front of me seemed to be in a bad mood. Such low education, didn't even go to high school or culinary school. It's sickening enough that an amateur is here. And what's with that outfit? On this day, I had dressed casually in slacks, a t-shirt, and a jacket. As Frederick had told me, you're just going to change anyway, so dress comfortably. Do you even realize where you are? If you were a skilled chef, it might be accepted, but as an amateur, at least show some sincerity with your attire. This grumpy man was Tom. After graduating from culinary school, he trained in French cuisine in France and was appointed head chef here at the age of 30, as I heard from Frederick. A guy like you in our kitchen, what is HR doing? Here you go. Saying this, he handed me a basket of cleaning supplies. A scruffy old man like you shouldn't even be in the kitchen. Go do some cleaning, that's more suitable for you. Don't come back until I've cleaned all the toilets in the storeroom, he said, shutting me out of the kitchen. Honestly, it was frustrating, but I decided to take it as an apprentice job and do it. Maybe if I show my work ethic here, I might get some recognition. I didn't just clean the toilets and storeroom, I scrubbed every nook and cranny, both visible and hidden. First, I had to earn my way into the kitchen, so I fueled my enthusiasm. But 2 weeks passed, and I was still cleaning. Jack, you really are efficient. Your work is meticulous. Jennifer, a part-time cleaner, always praised me like this. My reputation among the cleaning staff was rising, but I was feeling mixed as cleaning wasn't what I wanted to do. Everything starts with cleaning. I've been taught to always tidy the place before you work, so cleaning itself wasn't a burden. In fact, I like cleaning, but this was a different story. The first week was good. While being burdened with work, I managed to clean places the cleaners couldn't reach. It was rewarding and fulfilling. But by the second week, there was hardly anything left to clean. Having done almost all the major cleaning in the first week, once the toilets and water areas were done, only light cleaning was left. This left me with too much idle time. And now it's been 3 weeks since I've been relegated to cleaning duties. I still haven't been allowed into the kitchen. I just wanted to work in the kitchen, even if it meant starting with dishwashing. I tried to negotiate with Tom several times, but he never agreed. Do you really think someone like you can negotiate? Just stick to cleaning. I've already finished almost all the major cleaning in the first week, and I have an excellent cleaner working with me every day, so I at least want to start in the kitchen with dishwashing. You don't deserve to be in the kitchen, just go back to cleaning. And like that, I was shut out every time. Why do I have to endure this? I was a mess of frustration and anger at the unfairness. I just wanted them to see my cooking before judging me. I was stunned to receive such unfair treatment based solely on my background. Tom graduated from a prestigious culinary school in New York, then trained in France and San Francisco. Despite his skills, he seems to have a nature that can't be satisfied without asserting dominance. Well, even a high school dropout can clean. Good for you, learning to clean in middle school. Lately, I've been trying not to engage with him too much, as it's just tiresome. Whether I react or not, he's always in a bad mood, and ignoring him seems to make him lose interest faster. Geez, why is he like that? Jennifer tilts her head in wonder. I wish I knew. What about me doesn't he like? Is it because I'm a high school dropout? I didn't graduate, but I did attend high school for a bit. Is it because I didn't go to a culinary school? You can learn to cook even without attending a culinary school. Initially, I kept questioning myself, but eventually realized that thinking about it wouldn't yield any answers, so I stopped. When I'm cleaning, Tom often comes to check on me and make snide remarks. Humph, cleaning suits you. You're more fitting as a cleaner than a chef, he says, smirking as he watches me clean. I was taught that everything starts with cleaning. When I reply like that, he visibly gets in a worse mood. Is that so? Then keep doing it for life. He clicks his tongue, kicks a nearby trash bin, and messily shuts the door on his way back to the kitchen. It's really too much, Jack. You're actually supposed to be in the cooking department, right? Jennifer sympathizes with me, seeing how much disdain I'm receiving. Thanks for worrying about me. While I felt embarrassed, her kindness was a relief to me. It's not your fault, Jack. Besides, we're grateful to you. Jennifer, look, most of our cleaning team are older ladies, right? Many of us have backaches. You cleaning every corner so thoroughly, even in places we can't reach. Whether it was encouragement or sincerity, Jennifer patted my shoulder, saying cheer up, and went back to the break room. I was reaching my limit of patience, but I endured it. I didn't want to disappoint Frederick or cause problems, and the part-time staff in the cleaning team were all nice people, making it a comfortable place to be. I didn't plan to stay in the cleaning team forever, but I didn't want to be bothersome or cause any trouble either. Then, one day, an opportunity arrived. A high-profile politician, Mark, was coming to the restaurant, creating a buzz. With a tense atmosphere to avoid any mistakes, the tension was palpable. The kitchen was filled with nervous energy. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound echoed, and the commotion intensified. Tom, are you okay? Such a bad injury. We need to stop the bleeding. It seemed that Tom had been injured. His injury was severe enough that he couldn't hold a knife, and amidst the hurried first aid, the kitchen was enveloped in anxiety. What do we do? There's less than an hour left. In the bustling kitchen where everyone was flustered because they couldn't start cooking without Tom, I raised my hand. Which recipe is it for today? I'll do it. The room fell silent. They seemed unsure whether to let me do it or not. Go ahead and try if you think you can. It's a good opportunity. Tom said, his face twisted in pain. It must have been a tough decision for him. A young apprentice handed me the recipe. Here it is. I quickly read through it and picked up a knife. I can do this, I'm sure of it. Everyone's eyes were on my hands. They were murmuring in surprise, but I was too focused to hear them clearly. It's done. Please check the taste. In a matter of minutes, I had nearly completed the dish. There were only about 10 minutes left before Mark arrived. Reluctantly, Tom tasted my cooking. Who are you, really? He looked at me in surprise, then went on to taste each dish. Yeah, this will do. Finish it up. With a go-ahead, I quickly completed the final touches. Tom watched me with a curious gaze. "Mark has arrived. Please start with the appetizer." I silently worked through the predetermined menu. Before I knew it, I had finished serving the last dessert. I had done it. I felt a wave of relief at this accomplishment. Mark has left. He was very satisfied. Yes, the kitchen was enveloped in joy. Tom looked stunned, but then, coming to his senses, said, "Jack, can you take over the kitchen today?" and then left. Was I finally recognized? I spent the rest of the day cooking in the kitchen. I was filled with joy, feeling a sensation I hadn't felt in a long time. It was a delightful day. A few days later, Frederick, who had been on an overseas inspection, returned and called me to his office. "Jack, it's been a while. How's it going?" "Managing well." "Well, so-so, I guess." As we were having a light chat, there was a knock on the door. "Today, there's someone who wants to meet you," Frederick said, inviting in the person who knocked. Led by Tom, in came the politician, Mark. "You were the chef that day. Nice to meet you. I'm Jack. The dish you prepared that day was excellent." "Thank you." Mark smiled warmly and extended his hand. I gently shook it. Apparently, the dish I prepared that day had been well received by the guests, and it seemed to have facilitated the success of their meeting. They even promised to dine here again next time. "Thanks to you, the deal was a success. I'm truly grateful," Mark said, and then he left. The one who took over the knife for me when I was injured that day was Jack. His skills were impressive. "Who exactly is he?" Tom asked Frederick with a slightly discontented look. "Unsatisfied, are you? I told you I had called a skilled chef for help." Frederick glared at him and Tom retorted. But what actually came was a high school dropout, someone who didn't seem to have learned cooking. "And where did you deduce that he hasn't learned cooking?" "His educational background. He didn't go to culinary school." Frederick sighed deeply. "Tom, you're certainly skilled, but that's all," Frederick said, looking away from Tom disappointedly. "Do you really think that culinary school is the only place to learn cooking?" Frederick asked Tom directly. Tom was at a loss for words. "Jack dropped out of high school and learned cooking under me," Frederick revealed quietly, causing Tom's eyes to widen. "Yes, right after I graduated from middle school, I became Frederick's apprentice. It all started when I was moved by a meal at a hotel my family visited. Back then, I desperately begged Frederick to teach me cooking. Looking back, I was such a cheeky kid. But Frederick said, 'Once you graduate middle school and can work part-time, come to my place.' Right after graduation, I started working part-time at the hotel while attending high school, initially just cleaning and washing dishes. I felt deceived at first, but being able to watch Frederick's work up close was stimulating. One day, having finished cleaning and dishwashing early, I practiced knife skills with discarded scraps. It was imitative, but I remember enjoying it. Frederick found me doing this. 'Do you want to cook?' Expecting to be scolded, he simply asked me that. 'I can forget the dish you made that day. I want to be able to cook like that.' From the next day, before the hotel opened for business, Frederick started teaching me whenever I was in for work. It was much more fun than school, and gradually, I started working at the hotel more than attending school, eventually dropping out of high school." Frederick was dismayed when he heard this, but said, "If you have that much passion, I'll commit too." That's when my rigorous training began. I was scolded daily, but it was more fun, and I was happy to see myself improving. Eventually, Frederick opened this restaurant, and I went independent. Those days were fun, but I had to close my shop due to a bad back that prevented me from cooking. It was frustrating, but Frederick had told me, "Come back anytime once you are healed," so I decided to fully enjoy my break. And now, here I am, returning as a chef. You judged a person solely by their education and made him a cleaner, didn't you? Frederick said quietly, anger seeping through Tom, pale and trembling. Do you think someone who judges others by their education and looks down on them can have the heart to host guests? Do you judge customers the same way? Frederick glared at Tom. Tom, how long did Jack work as a cleaner here? 1 month. Tom answered hesitantly. Then, you'll spend 1 month cleaning the entire place as a cleaner. Tom was banned from the kitchen for 1 month. This seemed to hit Tom hard. He was quite dejected. A month later, after his ban was lifted, Tom came to apologize to me. Jack, I'm really sorry about that time. I was surprised by how deeply Tom apologized. Please don't apologize. It's all in the past now. But, really, don't worry about it. Instead, let's focus on providing better dishes to our customers. Saying this, I finally got Tom to agree. I was the only chef specifically invited by Frederick to this restaurant. I learned that after training in France, Tom had been working as a chef at a high-end restaurant in San Francisco. Frederick had scouted him there and brought him over. Being chosen by Frederick himself for the opening team, I had to deliver results. I was desperate, but in the end, I overdid it. Tom laughed self-deprecatingly. From then on, we both pushed and encouraged each other. I taught Tom all the skills I had, and I learned a lot from him too. Hey, about this menu. That's good, but maybe this could be. Every day after business hours, we brainstormed new menu ideas and techniques. It was fulfilling. Inspired by us, other employees started asking for advice, leading us to hold regular tasting sessions and training workshops. Everyone polished their skills for these sessions, gaining confidence and improving rapidly. As the chefs grew, the restaurant's reputation soared, and more chefs went on to open their own places. Being a chef from this restaurant became a brand in itself, and I became the head chef before I knew it. Tom recommended me when he decided to start his own restaurant. Jack, this is for my restaurant. Taste it for me. One day, Tom brought a prototype dish he planned to serve at his restaurant. A fusion of the depth of Italian cuisine and the refined presentation of French cooking. A beautiful dish, Tom's real style. Yeah, it's good. I really like it. I couldn't have made it this far without you, Jack. We exchanged a firm handshake. No, it's all thanks to your own efforts, Tom. I'm looking forward to your future. Since then, I've continued as the head chef. I'm enjoying challenges set by Frederick and a quick learning of the young chefs. Jack, could you taste this? Jack, something seems missing. How can I improve it? Everyone is full of enthusiasm and dedication, constantly honing their skills. You've changed the atmosphere of the kitchen. Impressive. Frederick said one day when he called me to his office. No, I haven't done anything special, just doing what I can. I answered while scratching my cheek. I'm grateful for this wonderful environment. I'll continue to do my best. We exchanged polite thanks and shared a laugh. Frederick, let's cook together again soon. My knife skills are still sharp. I quietly continued my studies, looking forward to a cooking showdown with Frederick, and he seemed to be doing the same. Mark has become a fan of my cooking since then, often dining alone at the restaurant. Recently, for Mark's birthday, I had the honor of cooking at his home. Such experiences are rare. I'm truly grateful for them. I'm lucky to have met a skilled chef like you. Those words are too kind for me. I'll continue to improve. You brat, don't get cocky. You're just an ignorant little girl. That was David, a supervisor from our client's company, yelling furiously. David has always been rude to me because of my lower educational background. Now, He was picking on Sarah, a junior female coworker I brought along. Not only was I angry at being belittled, but also at the way he insulted her and our other coworkers. Just as I was about to retort in frustration, Richard, the president of our client's company, burst in and exclaimed, "What are you doing, David?" Richard looked at Sarah. Seeing Sarah shake her head, Richard's face turned pale. "Man, our company is over." Huh? After this incident, David, who favored education-based discrimination, would spiral down in life. I'm Kent. I'm 27 years old and work at a printing company. I'm single and don't have a girlfriend. I started working at this printing company right after graduating from junior high due to family circumstances. Sorry, Kent. I've put so much burden on you. What are you saying? I'm doing this because I want to. My parents divorced when I was very young, and my mother raised me single-handedly. However, she wasn't very healthy. Often ill, she had to miss work and struggled to find permanent employment, leaving our family's finances always on the edge. Seeing this, I decided not to go to high school and started working instead. Being an only child, I got a job at a printing company right after junior high to support my mother. I know it's because of me, but I wish you could have gone to high school, Kent. Don't worry, Mom. There are night schools. I'll work during the day and go to high school at night. Wanting to fulfill my mother's wish for me to attend high school, I worked during the day and went to a night high school. I successfully graduated from the night high school. Now, I work hard at a company that feels like a second family, including Edward, the company president, and my coworkers. Kent, can I ask you for a favor? Of course. Hey, don't always rely on Kent. It's fine. I rely on them too. Really, Kent, you're such a good kid. Stop it, please. I'm already 27. Weren't you just 16 the other day? The coworkers are all close, creating a warm, homely atmosphere. Right, Kent is 27 now. Time flies. Even you, Edward. Edward has taken care of me since I graduated junior high school, always showing me great affection. I truly think it's a wonderful company. However, in recent years, the rise of digital content has led to a decline in the publishing industry. There's no need to buy physical books, as cell phones allow easy reading anywhere. Even advertisements are easily searched on cell phones. The printing company I work for was also facing tough times. Therefore, we expanded our clientele, not only to major publishers but also to individuals. Taking on small print jobs, like fanzines and personal flyers, helped a business start to recover. Hey, why don't we go to that cafe sometime? Oh, the one that placed an order with us recently. Yeah, I've been wanting to go since I saw it. Don't mix business with pleasure. I know, but still. We also began to take interest in privately owned stores, broadening our horizons. I think our strategy to expand our market was a success. Everyone, listen up. Starting today, Sarah will be working with us. Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah, and I'll be working with you from today. Welcome, Sarah. Yes, thank you very much. One day, Edward introduced a new employee to us. She was a 20-year-old woman with a petite and demure demeanor. Her beautiful black hair and fair skin were striking. You're cute, aren't you? Oh, thank you very much. Young and pretty, I'm envious. Anyway, let's all get along. Yes, I look forward to working with you. Just like when I first joined, everyone welcomed her warmly. Although she had a fragile appearance, she was surprisingly strong and quickly adapted to operating the machines. Wow, Sarah, that's impressive. Really, maybe it's because you're young, you're quick to learn, which is a big help. Thank you. Hey, Sarah, want some snacks? Well, I love these snacks. Great, Eat as much as you like. Being the only young employee, everyone doted on her like a granddaughter or daughter, calling her Sarah, Sarah. And Sarah, with her smile, quickly got used to our company. Kent, can I ask you something? Yeah, sure. You're really reliable, Kent. Ahaha, thanks. Feel free to ask me anything, not just me but others too. Jess, thank you. Being the only two in our 20s, we became good friends and talked a lot. Ag, I have to go to that publishing company. One day, I had to go to a major publishing company for a business meeting. The thought of meeting the person in charge made me uneasy. At a night high school, so you're poorly educated. Well, yes, that's true. Low education means you only have subcontracting jobs. Oh, that person, David, is a manager at our client's company. He looked down on me, calling me poorly educated and a subcontractor, and behaved arrogantly. It was clear he didn't like me, as he didn't treat other employees this way. Honestly, I dreaded going to these meetings. Kent, can I talk to you for a moment? Oh yes, sure. You're going to the major publishing company now, right? Yes, I'm about to leave for a business meeting. Could you take Sarah with you? Consider it a learning experience for her. Sarah too. Yes, for her social education. Edward asked me to take Sarah along to the publishing company for her social education. I'm shy with people. I get nervous in front of strangers. Is that so? Yes, but I'm glad everyone here is so kind. Remembering her saying this, I was apprehensive about introducing her to that person. But I was directly asked by Edward, and it was indeed time to start taking her to business meetings. Understood. Thank you, Kent. I agreed, and we both headed to the client's company. Here are the samples of our printed materials, along with the prices. During the meeting, we presented several samples of print work and paper, along with their prices. However, David, the person in charge, looked annoyed. Whatever. They all look the same to me. That's not true. Some authors are particular about the quality of paper. I can understand those who are fussy about such things. He was dismissive and wouldn't take our presentation seriously. Many authors care about the texture of the paper and the design of the print. I understand their desire to be particular about the work they create. But David didn't seem to care about such things. Regarding the font, we can't proceed without specific instructions. Can a low-educated person make any decisions? People with low education are really useless. David began to insult me, even though it's necessary in our work to receive specific instructions. A night high school, right? That's where all the less privileged backgrounds go, isn't it? I've heard it's chaos in the classes. How can anyone learn anything there? He spoke so disparagingly. I was used to hearing this from him, so I could bear it. But what concerned me was Sarah, sitting silently next to me. I'm not interested in talking to a low-educated person. Bring someone else from your company. Oh wait, I guess everyone at your company is the same. Huh? No prestigious university graduates like me, right? A bunch of low-educated people can only do subcontracting work. David laughed mockingly. Hearing these words, I felt my blood boiling. It was one thing to insult me, but the people at the company who had warmly welcomed me right after I graduated from junior high were another matter. I was furious at him who mocked my benefactors. Can you just, Kent, please wait. Just as I was about to retort, Sarah, who had been quietly observing, stopped me. Please, no more. Besides, I'm also a graduate of the same high school as Kent. Sarah revealed that she, too, was a graduate of the same high school as me. She had her reasons for choosing a night school. It's funny to see an idiot defending another idiot. Truly a gathering of fools. David continued to mock her. Do you know that Richard, the president of your company, also graduated from the same high school. But when asked this, David was taken aback. What? Richard graduated from a university, though. You can go to university after graduating from a night school. Didn't you know that? Angered by Sarah's words, David's expression turned to fury. You brat, don't get cocky. You are just an ignorant little girl, he yelled, becoming enraged. Just as I was about to protect Sarah and respond, what are you doing, David? Richard, the president of his company, came rushing in. How dare you speak like that to our clients, and to intimidate a young lady, especially Sarah? Richard loudly reprimanded David for intimidating Sarah. I'm so sorry for our employee's behavior, Sarah. He then turned to Sarah and apologized. Sarah stared back at Richard and slowly shook her head twice. Seeing this, Richard's face turned pale. Then, turning back to David, he said, Our company is over. No way, just because of some little girl. That little girl you're talking about is a genius novelist under Luna Avery. As it turns out, Sarah was a genius novelist who had won numerous major awards. She had planned to publish her new work with this publishing company, but it was on hold due to rumors about David, her assigned editor. Because of you, what was on hold is now stopped. How are you going to fix this? That Luna Avery. David was shaken upon hearing the truth from Richard. But she's a night school graduate, he stammered, clearly flustered. Sarah debuted as a novelist when she was in junior high. Her youthful sensibility and beautiful prose caused a sensation. Her writing, expressing the various emotions of adolescence, quickly gained support from her peers. Her works were turned into movies and dramas. Facing junior high school graduation, I wanted to balance writing and studies, so I chose the same night school as Kent and Richard. She chose this night school and planned to write a novel based on it. When she inquired about a teacher for research, she was introduced to Richard of this publishing company. This connection led to her working at our printing company for social study and research. Excuse me, do you have a moment, Kent? Yeah, sure. What do you want to ask? I'd like to ask about one of your classmates. While working, Sarah also conducted interviews with me and Edward, the president of our printing company. Despite this, she never neglected her work at the company, managing both tasks effectively. Why did you join a subcontracting printing company? Edward and I were night school classmates. I worked while attending night school to save for university, then went on to university and eventually joined this publishing company and became its president. Edward, due to health reasons, attended high school while undergoing medical treatment and later took over the family printing business after graduation. People attend night school for various reasons. Like me and Richard, some work while studying, while others like Edward attend school while dealing with health issues. People from all walks of life attend night school. Sure, there are delinquents, but many are there because they want to learn. Don't judge based on prejudice. Sarah said this, glaring at David. She knew the reason I chose night school because I had told her during an interview. For your mother. That's just like you, Kent. So kind. Do you think so? Yes, I respect you for that. Sarah's eyes sparkled as she said this, showing she truly meant it. That's why she was so angry now. I don't want to publish a book with a company where people belittle others based on prejudice. But, as David panicked, Richard let out a deep sigh. It's regrettable, but I can't stay silent when my junior is treated this way. He'll receive the appropriate punishment. Richard promised coldly, looking at David. It's exaggerated. Surely losing one writer, one book, isn't a big deal. David's words made us exchange glances, our expressions showing our disbelief. I'm not fixated on paper publishing. Books can be released digitally, and there are plenty of platforms for that. Hearing Sarah say this, I was a bit shocked. Being involved in printing, the idea of even digitally made me lower my head. But I love physical books. Sarah continued, making me look up again. She gazed straight at David with sparkling eyes, just like when she interviewed me. The weight of a book in your hands heightens the anticipation of the story to unfold. The texture of the paper, the smell of the ink, they're irreplaceable. The pages that wear out from being read over and over, carrying memories with each touch. These are experiences unique to physical books. Her words reminded me of my favorite books that I'd read countless times. Even knowing their content by heart, I still found myself returning to them. Their pages gradually wearing, becoming new memories. The design of the book, the type of paper, the color of the ink, all are crucial for authors to convey their worlds. You dismiss them as unimportant. Frankly, you're not suited for this industry, and I'd prefer if you didn't involve yourself in it anymore. That was Sarah's genuine opinion as an author. Me, not suited, but I. David was visibly shaken, being soundly put in his place by a young woman. It seems we can't discuss any more today. We'll take our leave now. Sorry for the trouble caused this time. Sarah and I said our goodbyes to Richard and left the room. Richard, expressing his apologies, accompanied us out, leaving David behind. I realized I didn't know my own staff well enough. On the way, Richard seemed truly remorseful. But I want to build a good relationship with your company in the future. I'd like that too, despite my feelings about David. I believe we can have a good relationship with you, Richard. Me too. I may dislike David, but I trust you, Richard. Sarah and I expressed our thoughts, and Richard was grateful. Thank you. Please convey my apologies to Edward later. We will. After another farewell, Richard left. I might have been too harsh on him. Sorry if I overstepped. On the way back, Sarah apologized to me. No, you helped clear the air. I've always been annoyed by that guy's attitude. You did well. We both smiled, feeling relieved. I decided to write a novel set in a night school because of my classmates. Sarah then shared why she chose to write her current novel. Many at the night school have their own challenges. One classmate was a single mother with a 2-year-old. Her husband ran away as soon as he learned about the pregnancy, and now there's no contact with him. That's terrible. Thankfully, her parents were there to support her. She worked in a factory during the day and studied at night. I had worked during the day and studied at night myself, so I could relate a bit. In middle school, she rarely attended school and didn't take the high school exams. She lived with her boyfriend, hardly ever returning home. Now, she deeply regrets those days. As I listened to Sarah, I learned more about her classmate. Abandoned and desperate, she returned home after a long time. Her parents scolded and wept but welcomed her back. Now, she's transformed her life, attending a night nursing school after graduating. We became close friends and still keep in touch. That's great. Yes, she's been a valuable friend, always there for advice. Sarah showed me a photo on her phone. It was a picture of her with a woman, both looking very close and happy. The woman was holding a little child. Additionally, there was also a man like this. Another individual was a man in his 60s. After graduating from junior high, he had immediately started working and eventually reached a respectable position in his company. However, after retiring and becoming a grandfather, he regretted not being able to help his grandchild with their studies. His son then told him about night school. With his family's encouragement, he re-enrolled in a night school. Sometimes, he even studied alongside his grandchild. His grandchild was so adorable. After seeing my friend's child, she'd insist, "I'm the big sister," and try her best to take care of the child. That must have been cute. Absolutely, everyone was smitten, and he's knowledgeable about so many things. He's also a great storyteller. I remembered an amusing old man in my class too. There was also a kid who had stopped attending school after getting injured in an accident. He had been active in sports, but the injury prevented him from continuing, leading to his absence from school. However, seeing his parents cry, he decided to change and started attending night school. Everyone had their reasons for attending. Night school gives you a glimpse into the diverse life experiences of people. That's true. Despite the prejudices, the students there are driven by goals. I wanted to communicate this to as many people as possible. That was her motivation for writing her new novel. Learning is not bound by age or circumstances. Anyone can do it anytime. There are schools for that, and I want to convey this message. Sarah's eyes sparkled as she spoke. She wanted to share this with many through her book. It suited her well, I thought. I support you, Sarah. Thank you, Kent. Your support really motivates me. She smiled sweetly in response. The next day, Richard really came to apologize. I'm sorry for what my employee did yesterday. Don't worry about it. I should have noticed it earlier too. We both have a lot to learn. Yeah, you're right. I'm really sorry. Forget the apologies. Let's go for a drink sometime soon. You must have a lot to vent about, right? Yeah, as an apology, I'll treat everyone to drinks. How about that? That sounds great, thanks. Edward laughed and accepted the invitation to the drinking party. So, what happened to David? He's been assigned to a quiet job with no external contact. He begged for forgiveness, but well, for someone who boasted about his education and career, this must have been humiliating. I could imagine his frustration at being sidelined. With that in mind, Sarah, would you consider publishing with us? Richard then made this offer to Sarah. There's a condition. Let's hear it. After a moment's thought, Sarah laid out her condition. Please use this printing company for the publishing. I wanted to have a special binding, and I believe this company can achieve that. Her words filled me with joy. And I knew we had to live up to that expectation. Also, I want you to be careful not to portray night schools negatively in the marketing or to perpetuate stereotypes about educational backgrounds. Understood. I was already planning to ask Edward for the printing, and I'll make sure to handle the marketing aspect properly. Accepting Sarah's conditions, her new work was set to be published. The novel turned out to be a huge hit. It was prominently displayed in bookstores, and I often saw people reading it, choosing the book over their cell phones. It even got adapted into a movie. It also became a big success. Now, there's talk of a sequel being eagerly anticipated. Sarah reported this news to me with a bashful yet happy expression. However, she later left the printing company. Seeing the process of my writing becoming a book has made me even more attached to my work. That's why I've decided to focus more on my writing. That's understandable. I'll miss you, but I'm supporting you. Just don't overdo it. Thank you, she replied, leaving the company amidst everyone's reluctance. She still visits us, and Edward and the staff always welcome her warmly. Hello. Hey, Sarah, hi. Here, I brought some snacks. Wow, thanks. They look delicious. Oh, I read your latest book. It was great. It feels a bit embarrassing to hear that. Did you like it? Yeah, it was interesting. The writing was beautiful, and your message came through clearly. It was a really good piece. Thank you. Of course, I'm always happy when she visits. Kent, you like Sarah, huh? Yeah, well. Oh, we're all supporting you. Yeah, it's great to see our youngest member and our dear daughter happy. Stop it, you're making me blush. It seems my feelings for her were obvious to everyone. When she visited, we often found ourselves subtly left alone together. Honestly, it was quite embarrassing. Some time after that incident, Richard hosted a drinking party. Sarah attended a party, and she was sitting next to me, thanks to everyone's consideration. We're sorry for any discomfort caused to you. It's okay. What about David? He left the company recently. Seemed quite unhappy. Rumor had it that after leaving Richard's publishing company, David couldn't find employment anywhere and disappeared from the scene. His insult to Luna Avery had spread, making it impossible for him to stay in the area. Well, that's karma for him. Indeed, it's a relief not to see his face anymore. Yeah. We're glad that's over, we all agreed, sharing a smile of relief. Sitting next to her felt comfortable. Do you remember the friend I mentioned before? Of course. Lily wants to meet you too. Really? I'm meeting some high school friends soon. Why don't you join us? Is that okay? Sure, I'll get their permission first. What do you think? Absolutely. So, it was decided, along with our friend Ryan, who had once dropped out of school due to an injury. The four of us and Lily's child planned to go out together. I'm sorry to bother you. No, don't worry about it. I like kids. Ryan, let's go over there. Okay, but let's hold hands so you don't fall. Okay. Then, Lily's child became utterly attached to Ryan, not wanting to leave his side. Watching the child and Ryan together, Lily looked on tenderly. They appeared like a close-knit family. It seems like they're getting along well. Indeed, I'm glad we could make this happen. Ryan had helped me a lot when we were in the same class in night school. He was a talented individual, even for a night school student. I wanted him to find happiness too. Kent. Yes. Lily approached me as we were leaving. Thank you for inviting us today, and for letting me meet him, she said, glancing at Ryan and blushing slightly. Ryan, looking tired from all the fun, was seeing us, wondering what we were talking about while holding her sleeping child, who has clung to his clothes. It's nothing. I'm genuinely glad I could introduce him to you. Thank you. You know, Sarah hasn't really been in a relationship before. Huh? Sarah is beautiful, so she's had confessions, but she was only interested in her writing. So, please take good care of her. Said with a mischievous expression, I felt my face turn red as I realized what she was meaning. Kent, is something wrong? No, it's nothing. Was I that easy to read? Discussing this with Ryan later, he said, it's obvious from your face, you're also quite obtuse. Obtuse. What she meant was, well, never mind. You need to be proactive with a beauty like her, or someone else might sweep her off her feet. I know. One day, Sarah visited the company. Since it was late, I ended up walking her to the station. Everyone's morale goes up when you visit, so it really helps. Is that so? We walk side by side in the dark evening, chatting. Do you feel happy when I visit? Her words stopped me. She looked into my eyes directly. Of course, I do. I replied, nodding, and she smiled happily at that. I wanted to take a step forward in our relationship. Sarah, how about we go for a meal together sometime? Really, I'd be happy to. Yes, please. I thought about protecting her smile from now on. Later, she became a renowned author known to everyone. Recently, the news of her marriage stirred the media. The partner was, of course. It's become quite the talk of the town. Indeed. It was me, though. After several dinners and outings together, we officially started dating, and about a year later, we got married. At our wedding, all the employees from the printing company came and blessed us with tears. Let's keep supporting each other from now on, Kent. Yeah, of course.